The Maryland Terrapins are on a 4-game losing streak, and under normal circumstances, I would say that means that the Huskers are going to get a win. But Gary, I said that last week about Michigan State on a 6-game losing streak, and we were just what the doctor ordered for Michigan State. Hit that like button for us and tell us in the comments, who do you think wins this game, and give us a score prediction. I'm not going to lie, I am worried this week.
Well, initially looking at it, when you see 2 of the 4 losses from Maryland is Ohio State and Penn State, it's like, okay, yeah, you expect that. The surprising losses are Illinois and especially Northwestern hanging. I think they put over 30 on them. So when you look at the styles of the teams that they play, take Ohio State out of that, you could see Nebraska being able to pull a win. The strong defense, heavy on the run game, things like that. I go back to it again. Nebraska beating themselves has been kind of the mantra of their losses this year, right? Maybe you could take Michigan out of that. But until I see Nebraska actually fix the turnovers, not just address it and talk about it and focus on it in practice, I just don't have a lot of confidence, especially going up against a team that is so offense heavy like Maryland is. Nebraska doesn't have the type of offense to where even if the defense does its job, which we've seen in games that we've lost this season, where the defense does its job and it's still not enough because the offense can't give them enough cushion. And this offense can score in bunches. So a field goal or a touchdown or even a 2-possession game, a 10 or 14 point lead, which I don't feel extremely confident Nebraska could get. But even if they had something like that, Maryland's not out of it. They can score quick and a lot if they need to. So I'm with you, man. I don't feel good about this going in. Most of it's because of the turnover situations, but a lot of it is the guys that keep getting hurt, the lack of ability to lean on the quarterback in the passing game. Maryland's not a run-heavy team. Their quarterback obviously can scramble and extend plays, and we've seen quarterbacks that aren't known as running quarterbacks that if they can extend plays, there's a lot of weak spots in that secondary. So the combination of the turnovers, the kind of decline in quarterback play as far as the passing game goes, teams kind of picking up on Harburg. So you're seeing a lot of spy on Harburg. So the quarterback run game isn't there quite as much. Going up against a team that is kind of at a desperate spot. We've got the same record. They need a win to get a bowl game, and the way they started off looked like they were, pretty much guaranteed to have it. I just don't feel real good, man. I don't really know unless Nebraska has some miraculous flip of the switch on the turnover side mainly, but also some big improvement on the offensive side. I don't have a lot of confidence going in this game. Obviously, anything can happen. You're back home. Hopefully, Nebraska, we've seen them bounce back from, like the Michigan loss. But the only time Nebraska's put up 30 is, Northern Illinois, I think. But then Purdue, and that was with the Newsome score off of a blocked or kicked in the back, whatever you want to call that, field goal. So, the offensive firepower is definitely not there to match up with Maryland. And over the weeks, you're starting to see the defense not look as stout as long as they had early on. Aside of Cam Leonard, I feel like the pressure on the quarterback just hasn't been there like it has to be against their quarterback, because he's going to extend plays. And I don't know, man. I don't feel good. I'm kind of worried that this game will kind of get ugly in a sense towards the middle to end of the second half.
So listening to Sipple and Callahan earlier, they pointed out that Tony White basically took a lot of blame for the game and the game plan. He felt like he was too non-aggressive, and I think he's going to correct that this week. And I think if you can get pressure on this quarterback, you can make him make mistakes and turn the ball over. You saw that with Penn State. They obviously had an offense, Penn State does, that can make Maryland pay for their mistakes. We don't. I think Matt Rule thrives in this scenario. This is when his legendary locker room speeches, I think, carry the most weight when our backs are against the wall, and they should be. They gave up a game they should have won last week. They weren't prepared, and I think he's really going to be able to get them motivated this week because of the poor performance last week. It almost feels like the Huskers might have believed their own hype a little bit too much and got caught with a trap game or something like that versus Michigan State. But they know what's at stake. They know that they still have their destiny in their own hands. And something is telling me that they're going to play a dominant defensive performance this week.
I think everything you're saying is exactly what has to happen to have a chance to win. But I also could see a very dominant defensive performance, maybe finally some turnovers, maybe some actual sacks. They get a lot of pressure on quarterbacks, but they haven't been getting a lot of sacks lately. I could see those things happening in the offense. One, not being able to score, like you said, but two, and the biggest Achilles heel this year has been turning the ball over. You know, I mean, the defense can play as locked down as they want. If they got to turn around and go back out 4 or 5 plays later in bad field position, you're only going to be able to withstand so many hits before something breaks. So, like I said, I don't feel good about it. Obviously, I'm hopeful. Obviously, you've got Maryland kind of in a lull or a down spot where they're for sure beatable. But I feel like Nebraska has to work very, very hard and have a lot of things go right, not just to win games, but to not beat themselves. I mean, there's a lot of games where they've done things to beat themselves and they've pulled out some wins. So I just don't think you can mess around with an offense like this. If it was more of a, Iowa game where you have 2 really stout defenses and 2 very below average offenses, yeah, your offenses can turn the ball over back and forth. That's, going in, your defenses are going to be out there. But I mean, they're going to need to be rested between series because of what they're going to have to do or what they're going to be facing every time they go out there. So if you keep putting your defense back out there, especially in bad field position, I don't think too much else is really going to matter. So I agree with you. I think the defense will perform better. I like Tony White talking about, kind of taking the onus of it. I agree. I feel like a lot of the blitzes and the disguised blitzes and things that you can really use and do to take advantage of the 3-3-5 against teams, he's kind of gotten away from and almost done more of a gap scheme on the front with the bigs, with Robinson and Hutmacher just kind of plugging that middle and then letting the pocket collapse or letting the guys off the edge do their thing. It would be nice to see him get back to that, a little bit more aggressive. But I think even with that, there's really no comfort or nothing to look back on and take a little bit of comfort off of the proven track record of the offense that's going to matter. You're going to turn around and go right back out there, whether it's good defense that forces punts or the offense just handing the ball over. So I agree with you, and I like what I'm hearing about the defensive side. I just feel like there's not enough improvement. If anything, there's a little bit of regression from as bad as the offense already was to where it's at now. So if we're going to do predictions, I hate to do it, man. I'm going to say Maryland probably 24, Nebraska 17.
Yeah, I'm going to go Nebraska 24, Maryland 23. I think it's going to be that close. Tell us what you guys think in the comments. Can't wait to see you guys for the live stream. Gary will be joining us live via Deer Blinds, but we can't wait for that. Thanks for hanging out. We'll see y'all Saturday.